Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show right here on voiceamerica.com, America's Voice, and it's now voiceamericamedia.com, right? We've been on the air with this program for almost 25 years now. I've been on many other networks and done many other programs and documentaries and series, but I've stayed true to Voice America and have always kept this program. And it's the program that shows you how to turn your obstacles into opportunities and your problems into solutions and make your dreams come true. And I'm really staying with the same theme I stayed with when I started this 4 decades ago, because I really believe in healing and empowerment and joy. And and that's what this is all about. So today we have on an icon in the field. His name is Dr. Bradley Nelson. He is a visionary author and best-selling book, The Emotion Code. He has touched the lives of over 500 million people through more than 1,700 media appearances worldwide, including TV, radio, podcasts, and live interviews. Dr. Brad's groundbreaking methods have helped people globally release the emotional energy of trauma, unlocking powerful transformations in health, happiness, and well-being. His latest book, and much anticipated new book, hot off the press today, is The Heart Code, the breakthrough method to open your heart and transfer your life. And it is now, and transform your life. It is now available on Amazon and where books are sold. Welcome, Dr. Bradley Nelson.
Well, Patricia, it's great to see you again. We go back a long way, and thanks for having me
Right.
on your show.
Yeah, great. And Publishers Weekly said about your book that it is an empowering guide to breaking down emotional walls to improve one's health, and that you succeed in demonstrating connections between emotional health and physical health. And it's going to appeal to people who really want paths to healing. So, so, before I ask you the questions about the book and about heart health and about emotions, what started you on this journey? Did you start out as a psychotherapist? Was this something you really wanted to do from the beginning? What got you here?
Well, it's a great question, and it's been a really interesting journey for me. It started off when I was 7 years old, and I was really sick with the measles. And I had overheard my parents talking, and I knew the plan was I was going into the hospital the next day into something called an oxygen tent. And I didn't know what that meant. But that night, I was lying there on the couch where my folks had made a bed for me so I could be near their bedroom. Everyone else had gone to bed. And I'm lying there feeling really sick and feverish and nauseated and just really awful. And my parents came into the room, and my mother said to my father, honey, will you kneel down with me and say a prayer for our boy so he'll be able to get well? And so they did. And my dad starts praying for me. And it wasn't any kind of a memorized prayer or anything. My dad was in real estate. He wasn't a preacher or anything like that. But he was, praying for me that I'd be able to get well. And in the middle of this short, heartfelt prayer, a miraculous thing happened. This change began at the top of my head and it went whoosh through my body. And in the space of about 1 second, I went from being really sick to being completely healthy.
Oh,
And I held my tongue till my dad was done praying, which didn't take long. And when he was done, I said, I'm better. I'm better. I was so excited. And the next day proved it that I actually was better. So that was the beginning, really, for me, because I learned in that experience that number one, there's a higher power we can draw upon. And number two, healing doesn't necessarily have to take a long time. It can happen instantaneously because it actually did happen to me. And I remember that event. It's burned in every cell of my body. And I remember it like it happened yesterday, and it was quite a while ago now. But anyway, so then about 7 years later, I ended up with kidney disease, and there was no medical treatment available for me at all, although they had diagnosed me.
hmm.
And so my folks took me to see some holistic doctors, and they started working with me. And right away, I could feel my body responding to what they were doing. And so I decided that's what I wanted to do with my life. And then I kind of took a detour for a while, becoming a computer programmer, and then it was really an answer to prayer that brought me back to the healing arts. And so then I went into practice, but because I'd been a computer programmer for a while, it gradually began to dawn on me that there was a computer of sorts within each patient, and I
Mm,
could ask questions. And when I would ask a question about something going on with a person, I found that if I tested a muscle on their body, uh, a muscle would either be strong or it would be weak, depending
mm,
on whether the answer coming from their subconscious mind was yes or no.
mm,
Now, I didn't come up with this, but I there were other people that kind of pioneered this, over
mm,
many years, starting in the 1960s. It's called kinesiological testing,
mhm,
or biofeedback testing, kinesthetic testing, things like that. Anyway, I was able to put it together to a very high degree, and because I'd been a computer programmer, it gave me this logical framework that I could use to communicate with this internal computer, which I found knew all the answers
mm.
to every patient's problems. It didn't matter what someone had been diagnosed with. It didn't matter how young they were, old they were. It didn't matter what they were suffering from. Their subconscious mind, the computer within them, knew the underlying imbalances that
Yeah.
needed to be corrected in order for their body to be able uh, to heal them. And so it was really an amazing thing. And during the last 10 years that I was in practice, most of the people that I saw had been told there was really no hope for them at all in Western medicine.
Mm,
They'd never get well with drugs or surgery.
mm.
And that's pretty much all Western medicine has to offer.
I want to ask you, Brad, do you think then that the answers are within us and you are more the facilitator to help that person see their own answer? That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, well, I'd say that that's correct. I mean, the beautiful thing about it is with all this work, the emotion code, the body code, the new book, the heart code, all of these books teach people how to how to speak the language of the internal computer of the body.
Mm,
This computer within us is essentially you can think of it as a holographic computer. It's a binary computer in terms of its interface. In other words, and this has been known about for a long time, but for example, if I were there with you, if you were to hold one arm out parallel to the floor, and if you were to make a statement that's true, like if you were to say, "My name is Patricia," if I were to press down on your outstretched arm, you'd be
mhm.
strong, you'd be able to resist me.
Right.
But if you were to say something incongruent or untrue, like if you were to say, "My name is Joanne," you'd be weak.
Hmm.
And anybody can try this, anybody can test this. But what I've done is I've taken this odd characteristic of the body uh, and have been able to develop it to this degree where we now have completely mapped out the subconscious mind. And now we have rails to run on. And now anyone can learn this language of the internal computer and ask what's really going on. What, all kinds of all physical, mental, and emotional issues.
Yeah. I guess my question is for somebody who's not really in touch with their body or what they're feeling, how do you help them become aware? Because as we know, there are many people that just move through, they're not going to get angry, they're not going to get upset, they just hold it all inside.
Right.
And they're not even aware of what that is. They've hidden it.
Yeah, and
So go
that's
ahead.
especially damaging with emotions. When we bury emotions, we don't allow them to be expressed.
Right.
They express in some other way, usually through physical pain or
Mm,
depression or anxiety or phobias or panic attacks or PTSD, eating disorders, things like that. Um, and of course, the Heart Code book, the Emotion Code book was the first book um, that I published,
hmm.
and the in this book we talk about this phenomenon that we call the heart wall, and that's really what this book shines a really
Right.
bright light on.
Right. That
This
was my
new,
question, was the heart wall. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So well, what happens to us is that most of us at some point in our lives feel like our heart is going to break. And so the subconscious mind will build a wall around that heart to keep the heart from breaking. And it's a defensive mechanism, very appropriate at the
Hmm.
time. But then, when the bully moves away or the divorce is finalized, or you quit that awful
Mm,
job and get a different one, now your heart is still living inside of this wall. And
mm,
it's, you have to understand, first of all, to make for this, any of this to make sense, you have to go back to Einstein, who said, the medicine of the future will be the medicine of frequencies.
mm.
And you also have to go back to Nikola Tesla, who said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Now, if you think about your own body, what is your body made of? Well, you could say it's made of skin and muscle and nerve
Mhm.
and blood vessels and bone and so on, and that's true. But if you were to ask a physicist what your body's really made of, a physicist would say, well, your body is made of atoms. And if you were to look inside of an atom to determine what's in there, you'd see there's really nothing in there. It's just empty space and some little infinitesimally tiny energies that are zipping around that we call subatomic particles. And a particle sounds like it's solid, but it's not. Um, in fact, Einstein said that there really is no matter as such. Matter is just energy that has been slowed down in its vibration enough that we can actually pick it up and discern it with our own senses. They say that if you could remove all the empty space between all the atoms in everyone's body on Earth, you could fit all 8 billion people in the world into a box the size of a sugar cube.
Wow.
And see, the problem for
Yeah.
those of us that are living, in the non-academic, non-quantum physics kind of world is that it's very hard to wrap our minds around these ideas.
Yes.
Nevertheless, this is reality. And when we experience an emotion on a quantum level, what we're experiencing is a specific, unique vibration. Every emotion is different. Anger is a different frequency than grief, and that's different from discouragement, and that's different from rejection. They're all different. But sometimes those emotions are either buried by us or overwhelming for some reason, so that the energies become trapped in the body. And
So do
that's
you
what trapped
help
emotions
do
are.
you help people discern which energy it is? Fear or anger or disappointment or sadness
Yeah.
or grief?
Well, the way that we do it, first of all, you have to understand that each one of us has we have two minds. We have a conscious mind, which is the by far the lesser part of our total intelligence. And that's the part of us that it's where we spend all of our waking hours, right? When you go to sleep at night, the conscious mind shuts down, and what's left is the vast bulk of your intelligence, which is creating trillions of chemical reactions every minute, millions of new cells every minute, keeping your heart beating, keeping the air moving in and out of your lungs, and so on. That part of you is aware of everything going on with every single individual cell in the body and really
Mhm.
every particle down to the quantum level, I think, and beyond. And so it's an order of intelligence that I believe is beyond our ability to really comprehend. And the reason for
Yeah,
that, I believe, is because it's divine in nature. Well, in order for us to find out if a person has emotional baggage, uh, and to release that baggage, you have to have a way to communicate with that internal computer, with the subconscious mind.
right.
Now, in these books that I've written, uh, a lot of it is explaining. There's a significant part in there that explains how you actually can do this. One of the methods that we teach is the method I just outlined, where you hold out an arm and you're
Hmm.
strong or weak, depending on
Hmm.
the answer coming out of the subconscious being yes or no. There are other self-testing methods. You can use two fingers, you can use one hand.
Hmm.
You can stand upright, and your body, if you're holding thoughts of truth, positivity, and congruency, your body will tend to sway forward.
Mm.
Your body will tend to sway backward within 3 to 10 seconds if you're holding thoughts of negativity,
Yeah.
falsehood, or incongruency. And so you can ask questions of the subconscious mind, literally.
Hmm.
And
Right.
then, for example, Patricia, uh, if I were working on you, let's say, for example, I'm there with you, and I ask, do you have a trapped emotion we can release? And let's say I'm testing your outstretched arm and the answer comes back strong. That's a yes. The next thing would be we would look at this chart. Now, this is a chart of emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of a little bit hard for that to show up, but there's 60 emotions on here. It's divided up into 2 columns and 6 rows. And so the next question that we would ask is this emotion in column A?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a strong answer, that's a yes. If it's weak, that means it's in column B. And by going through this process of deduction, usually within less than a minute, we can identify a specific emotion. And then we
Mm-hmm.
ask, do we need to know more about this? Sometimes we do. Sometimes the subconscious mind might want you to know that this emotion of betrayal happened when you were in high school from,
But
you
it's
know,
still there. All
it is
right,
still there. Yeah.
we're going to take a break.
Okay.
And we're going to continue this because we just talked about an emotion, like finding out what it is. And then what do you do about it? So when we come back with Dr. Brad, what he'll talk about is when we decide through testing or however we come up with, we determine what that emotion is, then how do we handle it? What do we do with it? How do we release it? How do we work with it so that we're able to work with it rather than being scared and pushing it back into ourselves again. So my guest today is the best-selling author, Dr. Bradley Nelson. And his newest book is The Heart Code, which focuses on what many consider to be the most important discovery in energy healing today, the heart wall. And this is a subtle energetic barrier which affects everything in our health. So we're going to talk about this more with Dr. Bradley Nelson right after the break. You're listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. We are back. You are listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show. And my guest is Dr. Bradley Nelson, who is a visionary author of the best-selling book, The Emotion Code, which has touched the lives of over 500 million people through more than 1,700 media appearances. His latest book, which is hot off the press today, and that is The Heart Code, the breakthrough method to open your heart and transform your life. And Dr. Bradley Nelson has worked with 15,000 practitioners certified worldwide. And he sparked a movement with his book, The Emotion Code. And now we're talking about the Heart Code. So, welcome back, Dr. Brad. All right.
Thank
So, we
you.
talked about determining through whatever the testing is what this emotion is. So let's say
Mhm.
that I come up with fear. I think fear is a big one for a lot of people today. There's so much change and things are changing constantly and people are afraid. So we deal with fear. So now we've got that on the table. What do we do with it?
Well, so let me explain what happens to us is that when we experience an emotion, there's a certain process that takes place. First of all, we we always experience an emotion in response to some kind of stimulus. Either we think about something, or someone says something to us, or we read something or hear something. And then we go into what we call the emotional process. I like to call it the emotional loop. We begin to feel a certain emotion, and we might experience certain physical feelings that go along with an emotion. We might have certain thoughts that go along with an emotion. Most of the time, as we experience this emotion, we simply acknowledge the emotion and we allow it to dissipate its energy, and the emotional loop closes, and that emotional experience is over, and we're ready for the next emotional experience. And that's how we experience emotions most of the time. But sometimes something goes wrong. Sometimes an emotion is coming up for us. We don't want to go there. So we bury it. We distract ourselves. We move on. Well, now what you have is an open loop where that emotion was trying to be felt. And
Mm,
now the loop is stuck open. So that energy is still there, kind of suspended in the body. Sometimes things happen to us that are emotionally overwhelming. Um, your spouse asks you for a divorce all of a
mm,
sudden, or you find out that your one of your parents has died, or someone's been in an accident, or something bad happens. And so those emotions can just be overwhelming. Sometimes, on the other hand, we have an emotion that comes up for us, and we decide that we're going to make it overwhelming. And so we take that resentment or whatever it is and we blow it up really big. And then often later, we're embarrassed because we got so overwrought.
mhm, mhm,
Well, any of those three situations, burying an emotion, um, artificially enhancing it, or experiencing something really overwhelming, will result in this formation of open loops in the subconscious mind. Now, to close an open loop, so really with the emotion code, body code, heart code, we're looking for these open loops. We're trying to find them and close them. And so once we identify the emotion itself, the next question that we ask is, do we need to know more about this? In other words, does the subconscious mind need us to dig any deeper to bring any more information to conscious awareness about what created this, when this happened? Is sometimes, well, usually if we need to know more, that's the first place we go. And so your subconscious mind might want you to know, hey, this happened in high school, or this happened during your first marriage, or whatever. And so what we'll do is, let's say you're 40 years old, we'll ask, did this occur earlier than 20? Okay,
mhm,
between 20 and 30. Okay, 31, 32. Okay, it happened at age 33 or something like that. We can find these, and it's accurate usually within a year, give or take. Most of the time, that's all you'll need to know is when it happened. Sometimes you might need to know a little bit more, like maybe who was involved or whatever. Once the subconscious mind can answer the question, do we need to know more, with a no, then we can release the emotion. And to release an emotion, you can use any kind of a magnet, or you can use your hand. If you're working on yourself, uh, you can just pass your hand or a magnet from your forehead over the top of your head 3 times. Or if you're working with somebody else, you can go down their back 3 times. We're using the governing meridian, a little river of energy that flows from the tailbone straight up over the top of the head to the inside of the upper lip. So we're just putting some energy into that meridian. And it's kind of like taking a credit card out of your wallet and rubbing a magnet on the magnetic strip. It just
mhm,
erases that data.
mm,
So that's basically the process. Most people can release a trapped emotion in about a minute or so. Um, one of the very first situations that I saw where a person had a trapped emotion was a woman that came in to see me who thought she was having a heart attack. Now, she had been a patient of mine, but I hadn't seen her for a few months. And she shows up at the office and she says she's got crushing chest pain, difficulty breathing. Her left arm is completely numb. The left side of her face is totally numb.
Mm.
And I told my staff, look, this looks like a heart attack. We might need an ambulance. So be ready. We were right next to a medical center. So I knew we could get her there right away if we needed to. But I said, give me 1 minute with her and let me just see if I can find anything. And so I started doing some muscle testing with her, asking questions, and found she had a trapped emotion. And the emotion was on the chart here. Let's see. The emotion was grief, which is right here in column B, row 3. So I identified that emotion. And then I asked, do we need to know more? The answer from her subconscious mind was yes. And so I started asking, well, when did this happen? Within the last 5 years? Yes. Okay. Within the last year? No. 2 years? No. 3 years? It landed 3 years before. And when I arrived at that, all of a sudden she burst into tears. And she said, I can't believe that's affecting me. I thought I dealt with all that. And I said, well,
Mm.
what happened? And she said that 3 years before, she found out that her husband had been having an affair and she confronted him about it. And it just, the whole marriage just blew up. She ended up getting a divorce and she was so hurt. She was so deeply in love with that guy and just, it just broke her heart. And
Mm.
so she cried buckets of tears. She spent a year in therapy dealing with all of this mentally
Mm.
and had even gotten remarried. So as far as she was
Interesting.
concerned, that was just ancient history. That guy was just her ex and he betrayed
Mm.
her. As far as her body was concerned, that emotional energy was still there. And so I released it by just swiping down her back a few times, with a magnet or my hand. And the feeling came back into her arm and into her face within about 3 seconds.
Wow.
And the chest pain and the difficulty breathing were gone. And she left the office about 10 minutes later after joking with me and my staff and just talking. And after she left, I remember sitting at my desk and my head was kind of spinning. And I was thinking, what in the world did I just witness? And of course, we now know that people can die from a broken heart. Uh, the Japanese really discovered this. They call it
Mm.
Takotsubo syndrome. The
Mm.
heart actually balloons and it assumes
Mm.
the shape of a Takotsubo, which is a Japanese fisherman's jar they use to catch octopus. It looks exactly
Mm.
like that. The left ventricle just balloons and the heart looks like this bell-shaped jar. It's
Mm.
crazy. And in the US now, finally, Western medical doctors have had to admit, yes, we call it cardiac syndrome,
Mm.
where you're dying literally of a broken heart. And that's,
Mm.
I think, what was happening to her.
Mm.
I think that, and by the way, that was 30, oh man, I don't even know, probably 35 years ago.
Mm.
And she's alive and well and
Yeah.
totally healthy. But I think if we had not removed that emotional energy, I think probably within 10 or 20 years, she probably would have died of a
Mm.
heart attack, heart failure. And at the funeral, nobody would have realized that really what killed her was her husband's affair. So that's how
Is
things go.
it deeper the longer you carry this? So if this started when I was 5 rather than 25 or 35, is it deeper? And if it's deeper, is it harder to mitigate, if you will? I mean, do you have to rub your head 20 times rather than three
No.
if this started when I was 3 years old rather than when I was 25 or 35?
No, it's always just 3 swipes to release an emotion. So the
Hmm.
method is incredibly fast and easy. Kids can do it. However, sometimes you need to swipe 10 times. It's either 3 times or 10 times. When do we have to swipe 10 times? Well, at the moment we're conceived, we often receive, I think we all receive emotional energy from a parent and often from both parents that they might have received when they were conceived um, from a parent. And these can go back for many generations. To release those kinds of energies, which we can also find, you swipe 10 times. And the first time I saw this, I was working on a patient and I had been taken by their subconscious mind to a specific column and row. And there are 5 emotions in each cell. And so I asked, okay, well, let's see, was this Anger or bitterness? No. Was it guilt? No. Hatred? No.
Mm,
Resentment? No, it wasn't any of those. And so I checked again. Okay, was this really in column A, row 4? Yes, but it wasn't any of those emotions. So it was a different, something different was going on. And
mm,
that's how the subconscious mind takes you to an inherited trapped emotion. Western medicine is very aware. Western biology is very, very aware that animals pass down traumatic memories in some way.
mm,
They have no idea what the mechanism is, but it's a quantum mechanism. And
mm.
this is exactly what it is. It's emotional baggage.
Yeah.
And
Can
yeah.
people really help themselves with this, or do they need professional help? I know you've talked about methods that we can use, but if this is a long-lasting pattern and it has, in a way, plagued you for years, do you need some professional help doing this with a practitioner, or can you read about it, read your book, and handle this yourself, or does it depend?
Well, I'll tell you what we find is that people can remove about 80% of their own emotional baggage.
Interesting.
And yeah, however, there's always going to be roughly 20% that you will need some outside help to remove. And the reason why I think is because some of these energies are so much a part of us that we can't quite see them. We won't be able to find them ourselves. That's just what we observe. But yes, people all over the world are finding that, gee, they can use the emotion code on themselves and all kinds of problems get better. Um,
Mm,
See, what I found when I was in practice was that the single biggest common denominator for all my patients was emotional baggage.
mhm.
And and when you get rid of the emotional baggage, so many things improve. Physical, mental, emotional symptoms get better in most cases.
Dr. Brad, do you think that we all have emotional baggage? I mean, does anybody escape this? I guess is the question.
Well, most of the time, the people that we see that don't have any emotional baggage are usually very small children that have not really been through
Mm,
life's
yeah.
onslaught yet. However, even they will have inherited emotional energies that they've picked up because some ancestor went through something difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's it. I mean, the when we get to be an adult and we've been through, job situations and relationships and breakups and so on, we've lived a lot of life. And so at that point, we've got a lot of that baggage that is interfering with our ability to really express the life we're capable of. The problem, though, is that inherited emotional energies that we pick up from mom or dad that might go back for 10 or 20 generations, we're not aware of those. And yet, say your eighth great grandmother was jilted at the altar, and now that energy's in you, the
Mm,
same at the same intensity that she was carrying it. It
mm,
passes down the line, and now you may be mysteriously uh, plagued by difficulty finding the right person, not knowing that the reason for it to a big degree is that
mm.
energy from that ancestor that now
Yeah.
you're carrying.
Is
Or maybe someone else is thrown into the poorhouse. And so you have money issues now, and it can
yeah,
be because of that kind of thing. It's really wild, but it's very
yeah.
easy to find and remove those energies with
Interesting.
people.
And that's very hopeful. But I'm wondering, I think it's something called either family constellation. There is a work that I've seen done where you work in group therapy and you're actually going back and looking at these ancestors and playing them out. It's almost like a role play where you play out where they would have been or you start to feel where they were. It's a powerful work. I forgot the name of it, but it has to do with constellation and family.
Yeah. Well, yes, it's very interesting. I mean, the reality of it is we're connected with those ancestors. And in many cases, we're carrying the intense emotional energies that became trapped
Mm,
in their bodies during their
yeah.
lives. But it
Mhm.
is easy to find those and get rid of those.
All
Some of the
right.
most powerful experiences that we have with people. are with inherited emotions. Really interesting stuff.
We're going to talk about that in our next segment, in our final segment. We'll also have Dr. Brad share some real world case studies and celebrity level client outcomes. So what are some things that people have done to help themselves or get help and really seen outcomes with this, with releasing these emotions? And again, Dr. Bradley Nelson's brand new book is called The Heart Code, The Breakthrough Model to Open Your Heart and Transform Your Life. And it just came out here in December of 2025. So the show's evergreen. You might be hearing this in a year or two, but this is when the book has come out. And how can people find it, Brad? Where do they go to get the book?
Well, of course, the books are available on Amazon.com and Barnes and Noble. They can pick up the book also at drbradleynelson.com. That's DRBRADLEYNELSON.com.
Okay.
And if you go there, we may have some special gifts and things for you if you pre-order
Okay.
there.
Thanks so much. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about some real live cases of people who have really worked with the emotion code and how it has changed them dramatically. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone, and we are back. We are talking to Dr. Bradley Nelson, who is a chiropractor by trade, who has trained 15,000 practitioners through this movement worldwide. And it is based on the book, The Emotion Code, and now his new book, The Heart Code. And basically, what we're doing is we're breaking down emotional walls to improve people's health. And what Dr. Bradley Nelson has done is succeeded in demonstrating the connections between emotional health and physical health. And and as he says, each time you trap an emotion, you get stuck in the middle of whatever painful event you were experiencing. And that energy can stay in the body for years, affecting your health, your relationships, your success, and your happiness. So, Dr. Brad, if people would like to work with this modality, the healing code and the heart code, would they, who can they contact? I know you said you have worked with thousands of practitioners worldwide who are certified. How
Mhm.
can people find a practitioner that works with the emotion code and the body code, and certainly now the heart?
Well, the easiest way to do that is to go to our website at discoverhealing.com.
Okay.
And there is a Google map there of our practitioners. And yeah, we've trained and certified over 15,000 practitioners in
Wow.
108 countries around the world. So there's
Wow.
probably somebody close to you. But understand also that because this work is really a method of quantum healing, it's done at a distance just as well as it's done live and in person. So if you don't find somebody in your own town, it doesn't matter. You might find the person that really resonates with you is in Singapore or maybe Kazakhstan or somewhere. I mean, you never know.
But that's good because
Yeah,
that doesn't limit you,
makes it
right?
easy.
It does, yeah, doesn't
Yeah.
limit you at all. And you're not doing this work personally anymore. You're training other people.
No, I retired from my own practice in 2004, and then I had a distance practice for about 2.5 years, and had to retire from that as well because my job is really to just teach this and travel the world and help people to understand how to do this,
Mm,
and
mm,
not so much to teach, work with individuals. Although I do work with um, high level people and some celebrities and so
mhm,
on. But I don't. It's that isn't something that I
mhm,
charge for. I don't have a practice. I'm just trying to help people. And
mm.
you know,
Wonderful. Share a story with us of someone
sure.
that you've worked with that you think, I don't know if you can mention names, you probably cannot, but it just, a real powerful story.
Yeah, sure. Here's someone named Kathy. Um, she said I had not been able to sleep more than a few hours a night, with many nights not sleeping at all for over 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I had been so sick, I thought that I would die. If you can't sleep, uh, it can be a cause of death. After clearing a lengthy heart wall and many things from my childhood and almost 50 years of marriage, I'm sleeping most nights, sometimes 10 hours or more.
Wow.
What a joy to have my life back. I use the emotion code and the body code pretty much every day for myself and some oftentimes for other people. It's been a wonderful blessing in my life and to the many people I've been able to help. I'm so grateful for it. Thank you. Um, so the hardest thing about writing this book was choosing from 10,000 testimonials, stories from all over the world, which ones were going to go in the book. Listen to this one. This is really interesting. It's from a woman named Tiffany from California. She said, I've been blessed with the opportunity to witness a remarkable difference in my grandmother, who is currently housed in an Alzheimer's facility. Before I began working on her, she was a crumpled pile of human flesh who muttered incomprehensible jumbles of unrelated words. Over the course of the past 6 weeks, I have literally observed an unbelievable transformation. She is now sitting upright in her wheelchair and managing to assemble full, occasionally eloquent sentences. She was even able to convey to my grandfather, her husband of 60 years, how much she truly loved him and apologize for her inability to successfully deliver that message to him over the past few years. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Oh boy. So there are
Now,
five
now,
chapters. Mhm.
now let me ask you. So when she worked on her grandmother, then she did this same kind of muscle testing with her grandmother. But if her grandmother wasn't that cognizant, how was
Yeah.
she able to do it?
Well, that's a great question. In the same way that you can work on a baby or on an animal. And so let's say, in other words, what we do is we teach people how to test themselves.
Hmm.
When I was in practice, I noticed something very interesting. I found that when I was asking questions, directing questions at the subconscious mind of a patient, when they were strong for yes or weak for no, if I tested my own muscles, I would be strong for yes or weak for no. And I found that that worked if I was within about 6 feet of that person, worked best. Well, we know the energy field of the body extends out about 6 feet on all sides, about 12 feet in diameter. And so, if you're within that energy field and you throw a question at the subconscious mind, you'll get an answer either on their body, strong for yes, weak for no, or on your own body. And that's how you can test. That's how you can test people that are otherwise untestable, like her grandmother.
Mm,
I'm sure was probably
mm.
totally
That's
untestable.
remarkable. So
Animals
it's a
too.
6 feet
They work.
distance if you're
It
within
works
six
best at
feet.
6 feet. Now, if you're further away than 6 feet, then what we recommend is that you use a method that we call proxy testing, which we explain really fully in the books, where uh, we use the principle of entanglement in quantum physics, where the subconscious mind sets aside its own needs to act on behalf of someone else, right? And let me share one more story with you.
Sure.
This is from a man named Giacomo in London. He said, after my Heartwell was released, my life completely changed. I became far more open to the divine, and I started lucid dreaming. After a few months, I entered into my first long term relationship with an amazing partner in which I am very happy. At first, I thought I wanted to pursue a completely different profession, but after 1 month, my resolve for my current passion strengthened, and I am achieving better results than ever in it. I'm so grateful that I discovered the Heartwell and had it released.
Mm,
I believe he is an actor. Um,
yeah,
so
yeah.
lots of stories. There are 5 different chapters in the book: stories of abundance and healing, and animal stories. There's a chapter about animals. Um,
Mm. So
uh,
it's really people want oh, I remember the question I wanted to ask you when you were talking about the 6 feet.
mhm,
So if you are, let's say, and this is a little bit of an unrelated question.
mhm.
Let's say you're in a gathering of people and you know these people may be toxic for you.
Yeah.
Is it best that you stay 6 feet away at least? Will that help you energetically?
Well,
Not really.
maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, what's fascinating is that when people have trapped emotions is removed, especially when they have their heart wall removed, one of the first things people often notice is how other people suddenly interact with them, that there's a
Mm,
shift that takes place.
mm,
Suddenly, people that weren't noticed or that were kind of mistreated suddenly notice that people are being kind to them and noticing them and being friendly to them. It's a very, very, very interesting phenomenon. Um, so, and it works for kids too. Let me read you one more. This is from Piacenza in Italy. This is from a woman named Valeria. She said, the most exciting case I have witnessed while using the emotion code is the story of a 2-year-old boy named Seb. Since his birth, he had experienced 2 deaths of close family members important to him: the death of his father and that of his mother's sister, both who died following an accident. The child was continually looking for his mother. He would
mm,
not leave her side even to sleep at night. He was
mm,
terrified of losing her.
mm,
Within a few hours of releasing trapped emotions and removing his heart wall, the child began to laugh, rejoice, and show signs of happiness as he had never done before.
mm,
His mother was amazed at the dramatic change. Now he can play away from his mother without the constant fear of losing her, too. The mother says
mm.
she witnessed a miracle. And so, yeah, it's the kind of thing we see all the time.
Now, did she help him release? Did the mother help the child release?
Um, well, let's see. I don't think so. This woman, Valeria, is probably one of our practitioners or just someone who's learned how to use the
Hmm.
emotion code, cleared this little boy's heart wall.
Hmm.
There's really no time limit. You can have a heart
So,
wall really at any age.
so that brings me to an important question. Can you help someone release a heart wall if they're not aware of it? Almost like
Well,
long distance healing.
yeah. Well, here's the thing. We are very adamant about people getting permission. we
Hmm.
we don't ever recommend that anybody use the emotion code without permission on somebody else, because it's an invasion of privacy, really,
Hmm.
and a violation of their agency.
Yep.
So we always recommend you get permission. So, for example, if you have If you want to work on a child, you need to get permission from the parent or guardian. Uh, if it's your own child, if it's an adult, you need to get permission from them. If it's your own child and they're not legal age, you can go ahead and work on them then. We basically apply the same rules that apply in the legal world.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That
yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So in this work, you have traveled the world and met people from every walk of life, or many.
Yeah, yeah, we have. We're actually filming a documentary right now about the heart wall. We just finished filming in Japan a few days ago.
Really?
Yeah.
And will
We
that be on Netflix or any of the program stations?
well, we certainly hope so. You
Yeah,
never know.
yeah, yeah. So, Dr. Brad, what are your closing thoughts? What do you want to leave our listeners with about, the link between emotional wounds and chronic health issues, about the heart wall, about how emotions get trapped in the body, and how we can really heal ourselves, how we have that capacity?
Well, thank you. Yes, we all do have that capacity. I believe that every person born in this world has a birthright, and that birthright is to be able to help themselves and help their friends, their family members and loved ones to heal in most cases. There's always going to be a need for Western medicine, but
Hmm.
Western medicine is really good at acute problems, not so good at other problems. And of course, we know that we spend more money in the US on healthcare than any other country in the world. And yet we are also the sickest country in the world per capita. Uh, and so there's something wrong there. But these methods, these tools, the emotion code, the body code, now the heart code, are tools to give back to you your healing ability.
Hmm.
There are no easier methods than these. These are the easiest, simplest methods. And you know, if you just open your mind to the possibility that maybe you actually can do this, that's what people are finding out all over the world. That this works and that it's not difficult, and it's it becomes kind of addicting in a really good way because when
Hmm.
you suddenly start to realize that your dad doesn't have back pain anymore because of what you did,
Hmm.
or your best friend now has a child because you were able to release her emotional baggage
Hmm.
from her bad relationships or whatever. And
Hmm.
I mean, those are the kinds of things that happen when you have a really super depressed, suicidal family member and you're able to be the one that
Yeah,
fixes them
yeah,
without any drugs, without anything
yeah,
else.
yeah.
That changes your very life. And that's
Hmm.
what's happening. And that's really what's driving this
Yeah,
worldwide phenomenon.
which is
Uh,
amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. How can people get the book again?
Well, they can go to, of course, the book's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, everywhere books are sold. The book's available on Target.com and in the Target stores. It's also, if you go to my personal page at drbradleynelson.com, it's drbradleynelson.com. You can order books there, and if you order a certain number of books, then you can get a free session with
Mhm.
someone, and
Wonderful.
it's a great way to
All
get your
right.
gift shopping done.
Thank you so much. It's really been an honor and a pleasure to have you on the program. Uh,
Thank you, Patricia. Great to
Really has been very inspirational. So people really, really, our listeners, get this brand new book. It's hot off the press, and it's called The Heart Code. The breakthrough method to open your heart and transform your life. And if you're looking on YouTube, you can see the book. All right, stay on the line for a minute, Dr. Brad. All right, folks, that wraps up this edition of the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show. If you'd like a copy of my newsletter so you can see all these amazing guests I have on each week, I send it out the first day of every month, so I sent it today. Just write to me, patricia@patriciaraskin.com, or just sign up on my website. Also, if you'd like to get your positive message out, I've interviewed over 6,000 people in my career, and I'd love to help you create your own podcast. So contact me, patricia@patriciaraskin.com. Remember, stay healthy, stay happy, get the support you need, and know you can make your dreams come true. Until next time, I'm Patricia Raskin. Bye for now.